Carlos Alcaraz surprises with his new and enigmatic tattoo in his Indian Wells debut. Carlos Alcaraz sparked all kinds of rumors with a new tattoo on his right arm that displays the following date, April 23, 2025. When an athlete or anyone gets a specific date tattooed, it is usually one that has already passed, but the Spaniard has inked something on his skin that remains a mystery. This tattoo was visible during his debut at Indian Wells against Frenchman Quentin Elise, when, while celebrating a point, the day, month, and year in small print on his right arm were clearly seen. But what will happen when the date arrives? Even Alcaraz himself has fueled speculation with a brief message on his social media, although most people are pointing in the same direction. It is believed that this date could be the release day of the Spanish tennis player's documentary series on Netflix, the giant streaming platform. Carlos Alcaraz, A Mi Manera is the title of the series, although the exact release date is still unknown, making the date tattooed on his right arm a likely candidate. In fact, it was at this same tournament last year when Alcaraz hinted at his agreement with Netflix after his victory against Felix Auger-Aliassime in the third round. He drew the letter N on the camera, followed by the phrase in English, "See you soon." The filming reportedly began in Las Vegas when the Spaniard played a highly publicized exhibition match against Rafa Nadal. Alcaraz and his surprising tattoo. Additionally, Alcaraz's marketing strategy makes sense, as the tattoo will disappear from his skin within 36 hours. This suggests that the official announcement of his documentary's release date, April 23, 2025, could be coming soon. By Monday, when he faces Denis Shapovalov, the tattoo should already be gone. Carlos Alcaraz tattoos the Eiffel Tower to celebrate his first Roland Garros title. Carlos Alcaraz's victory at Roland Garros, immediately followed by his Wimbledon triumph, marks the concrete beginning of a new era, not only in Spanish tennis but also worldwide. With 4 Grand Slam titles at just 21 years old, he joins an exclusive list alongside Bjorn Borg and Mats Wilander, a feat he has commemorated with a new tattoo. The Spanish tennis player now sports a representation of the Eiffel Tower on his right ankle, the most emblematic monument of Paris, where he lifted his 3rd Grand Slam trophy after defeating Alexander Zverev on June 9. Interestingly, despite the fact that this stylistic decision was not a secret, Alcaraz admits he had to ask his parents for permission. Presumably, they granted him their blessing to etch the memory of what is, for now, his first Roland Garros title onto his skin. This is the 3rd tattoo for the Mercian athlete. His first, commemorating his US Open 2022 victory, features the letter CCC, a reference to a motto passed down by his grandfather. "My grandfather always told me to focus on the 3 C's, head, heart, and courage." His second tattoo, a strawberry, symbolizes his Wimbledon 2023 title. All 3 tattoos include the corresponding dates of each Grand Slam final. Carlos Alcaraz takes down Djokovic. The Spaniard gave Botic van de Zandschulp the confidence to defeat the Serbian tennis player. Nothing can prepare you for these moments. You have to live through them and try to handle them in the best way possible. I regret my level of tennis, considering how I have trained these past days. To be honest, the difference between the center court and the other courts is enormous, said Novak Djokovic after losing 6-1, 3-6, 6-1 to Dutchman Botic van de Zandschulp in his Indian Wells Masters 1000 debut. The Serbian seemed to recover in the second set after being clearly outplayed at the start, but he could not overcome the consistency of an aggressive Van de Zandschulp, who dominated from the first point. Interestingly, Van de Zandschulp had entered the main draw as a lucky loser after losing in the final round of qualifying to Matteo Gigante with a resounding 6-0 in the second set. That defeat did not seem to affect the Dutchman, as he went on to beat both Kyrgios and Djokovic, 2 high-profile players who, for different reasons, are currently struggling. Botic van de Zandschulp credits Alcaraz. Asked after the match about the confidence he showed against Djokovic, Van de Zandschulp made it clear that he got it from Carlos Alcaraz. He had defeated the Spaniard at the US Open, which gave him the belief to face top players differently, including in Rafa Nadal's farewell match at the Davis Cup in Malaga. That match against Alcaraz changed everything, although even before beating Carlos, I had already played very good matches against top 10 players, said the Dutchman. But definitely, that match against Carlos was what made me believe I could beat these guys. Sinner kicked my ass twice last year, and we haven't faced each other since, but that win against Djokovic was really influenced by my victory over Alcaraz. Everything comes down to self-confidence before stepping onto the court, believing that you truly have a chance to win every day, though it's important to take it one point at a time, he added after his big triumph, which will now see him face Argentine Francisco Cerundolo in the next round. Van de Zandschulp was also asked about which victory was the most special, The one against Alcaraz at the US Open, Nadal's last match, or this one against Djokovic. They are all different. I think playing against Rafa in his last career match was mentally quite tough, especially in Spain, which is never easy. I think the match against Carlos Alcaraz at the US Open was probably the hardest because I wasn't yet fully convinced that I could beat these guys, the players currently leading world tennis. That was like the first step toward everything that has come afterward, he concluded. Carlos Alcaraz, even though Jannik Sinner is not here, reclaiming the number 1 ranking is difficult. 4-time Grand Slam champion Carlos Alcaraz started the defense of his title at the Indian Wells Masters 1000 with a dominant and solid performance, defeating Frenchman Quentin Elise 6-4, 6-2 to advance to the third round. The Spaniard, who has won this tournament in the last 2 editions, spoke after his debut about handling pressure and emotions at the first Masters 1000 event of the season. Each year is new. I have played each tournament several times, but every year brings different feelings, and everything changes. For example, today was my first time playing against Elise, so I wasn't sure how the match would go. Plus, since this is the tournament, I feel some extra pressure, said the player coached by Juan Carlos Ferrero. The native of El Palmar also addressed the battle for the world number 1 ranking against Jannik Sinner and Alexander Zverev. Alcaraz aims to take advantage of the Italian's absence over the coming months. It's something that's on my mind, but I'm not focused on it. I'm concentrating on myself, playing good tennis, and becoming a better player. I'm doing well in every tournament, and I have to keep it up if I want to fight for number 1. If I focus too much on the top ranking, I put extra pressure on myself, and I don't want that. Even though Jannik is not here, reclaiming the number 1 spot is very difficult, emphasized the second seed at Indian Wells, who will play his next match against Canadian Denis Shapovalov. Alcaraz praises the conditions at Indian Wells. The court is slow, and the ball bounces high, it suits me well. The Spaniard puts an end to the debate over a supposed increase in speed and lower ball bounce. Before the start of the Indian Wells Masters 1000, many reports on social media suggested that the new courts were faster and that the ball had a lower bounce. Nothing could be further from the truth. Alcaraz made it clear after playing his first match on the center court of the tennis garden, the court is slow, and the ball bounces high, which suits my game well. I feel at home here. Marca reported on Wednesday that the 4-time Grand Slam champion had not noticed any differences compared to previous editions after completing his first training session in the Coachella Valley. For those who continued to insist on the low bounce of the ball, it was Novak Djokovic himself who dismissed the claim after his second-round loss to Botic van de Zandschulp. It bounces more than if you were playing on clay. Similarly, both Alexander Zverev, before being defeated by Talon Griekspoor, and Daniil Medvedev emphasized the noticeable slowness of the playing surface. Despite the change of court supplier made by the organizers of the first Masters 1000 event of the calendar, players have continued to highlight that the new conditions have not significantly altered the playing experience compared to previous editions of the tournament. Zverev, who has always been vocal about court conditions, mentioned that the speed of the surface requires adjustments in his game. It's definitely slower than other hard courts on the tour, and you can feel that the ball stays in play for longer. You need to construct points more patiently, which isn't necessarily bad, but it's something you have to adapt to, said the German before his loss to Griekspoor. Medvedev, known for his defensive skills and long rallies, also pointed out that the ball bounces higher and sits up more than expected. You don't get as many free points on serve as you would on a faster court. You have to be prepared to grind out points and play longer rallies. It's almost like playing on a slow clay court, which can be frustrating at times, remarked the Russian, reinforcing the idea that Indian Wells continues to favor players comfortable on slower surfaces.